We now know how a human cell works. Of all the human cells, red blood cells are the most common type. These cells have an average lifespan of 120 days. Hence, these cells will be constantly produced in our body by a process called hematopoiesis. The body produces around 200 billion red cells every day. This process occurs within the bone marrow. This process also gives rise to other cells, like immune cells, that fight infection. These processes are housed within a hard, bony structure that is continually being modeled and sculpted by cells such as osteoclasts and osteoblasts. As we later study, the process of hematopoiesis can go wrong, giving rise to the uncontrolled replication of immune cells, which can give rise to conditions like leukemia or cancer. These blood cells, like trillions of other cells in the body, contains complex signaling pathways inside. Such pathways receive all its signal from the nucleus, where genes composed of DNA are turned on and off to alter the function of a cell. After the stipulated lifetime, the cells die. They collapse and die in a process which is known as apoptosis. Now, knowing about red blood cells, we shall now know about how these blood cells are transported and moved across our body. This network of transportation is what we call as cardiovascular system. The center of our cardiovascular system is the heart. Now click on the Enter button to enter into the human heart and know about its functions. The core of the cardiovascular system is the heart, which is a muscular, contractile organ. The size of the heart is roughly said to be that of the fist of a person. It is located between the lungs, in the thoracic cavity, predominantly towards the left side of the body, and surrounded by its own cavity called the pericardial cavity. To keep the blood flow throughout the body, we have a pumping system, and the heart is the pump, which is composed of muscles that pump blood throughout the body, beating approximately 72 times per minute of our life. Heart consists of 4 chambers: the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left ventricle. The left atrium, there are 4 valves in the heart. These valves are pulmonic valve, tricuspid valve, mitral valve, aortic valve. These valves are one-way valves. After knowing the structure of the heart, let us now know how it works. The blood becomes oxygen-rich by absorbing oxygen from the lungs. The functioning of the heart starts when oxygenated blood is carried from the lungs to the left atrium of the heart by means of pulmonary vein. The left atrium relaxes and this blood is pumped into the heart. When the left atrium contracts, the left ventricle relaxes simultaneously. The left atrium pushes the blood into the left ventricle through the one-way valve. When left ventricle contracts, the blood is pumped into the aorta, which carries oxygenated blood to different parts of the body except for the lungs. Oxygenated blood reaches a different part of the body through blood vessels called the arteries. The arteries then branch into capillaries, which reaches different organs of the body. The blood then gets deoxygenated and the blood then travels through the vessels called the veins. Deoxygenated blood reaches the heart through the vessel vena cava. The deoxygenated blood then reaches the upper right chamber of the heart, which is called the right atrium. The right atrium then gets contracted, allowing the blood to flow into the right ventricle, which contracts with the expansion of right atrium through the one-way valve. The right ventricle then contracts to push the blood into the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation. The blood is then oxygenated in the lungs and it flows back into the pulmonary veins. Now, to know about the structure of arteries and veins, click on the Structure button. Let us now investigate the structure of blood vessels. Veins and arteries are made up of three layers: outer tunica adventitia, middle layer tunica media, and inner layer tunica intima. Tunica adventitia is the outermost layer of the veins, which is made up of their connective tissue providing support and protection. It also contains the blood vessels supplying blood to the veins. Middle layer tunica media. Middle layer tunica media consists of muscles, elastic tissue and nerve fibers. Stimulation of this layer by cold infusions or irritant medications can cause vasospasms. Similarly, when this layer comes across heat, it may lead to vasodilation. Inner layer tunica intima. The innermost layer is tunica intima, which is made up of smooth, elastic endothelial lining. Any damage or presence of foreign material in this layer induces an inflammatory response, resulting in complications. The inflammation of the veins is known as phlebitis, and complications in this layer may also result in thrombus formation. The other important feature of this layer is the valves, which are bump-like structures formed by the endothelium lining of the tunica intima within the lumen and are predominant in the larger veins. Valves are always present along the course of the veins and at the point of bifurcations. The function of the valves is to prevent the backward flow of blood within the veins. Veins are low-pressure systems, pumping blood against gravity. The support they need is provided by these valves, which helps in the unidirectional flow of blood in the vein. Arteries do not have valves. Pressure within the arteries keeps blood moving in a proper direction away from the heart. Now, to know more about arteries, click on Enter Arteries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. All arteries carry pure or oxygenated blood from the heart, with an exception to pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. Arteries do not have any valves. Pressure within the arteries keeps the blood moving in a proper direction away from the heart. Arteries are located deeper than veins. Nerve endings surround all arteries. Coronary arteries supply blood to heart muscles. Now, to know about these veins, click on Enter Veins. Veins are the blood vessels which carry blood towards the heart. Veins carry deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body to the heart for oxygenation. The exception is pulmonary veins, which carry oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Another important feature of veins is the valves. Veins have valves which prevents the reverse flow of blood. Since veins are low-pressure system, when they operate against gravity, they need the support of these valves to prevent the blood from flowing back. And finally, Capillaries are the tiny, thin valve of muscles that allow substances to pass through between the blood and the tissues. They also act as a bridge between the small arteries and veins, which are called arteriole and venule. Veins play an important role in intravenous therapy. This completes this journey about blood cells, human heart, arteries and veins.